America cannot beat China. Even elementary school students know this. Recently, a video with Chinese subtitles featuring such a statement by Tesla CEO Elon Musk has been widely circulated on social media platforms such as Weibo, Twitter, YouTube, and Bilibili. It has caused quite a stir in the Chinese social media sphere. The title immediately caught everyone's attention. How could the CEO of Tesla, the world's richest person, be so candid in making such a statement? On Chinese social media platforms, some people cheered, some mocked, and others were puzzled, wondering what was going on. In reality, this is a short video edited by someone with great skill. The original video was actually a segment of Musk's speech at the United States Air Force Association event. The 25-second video was cut from an hour-long speech, and these editing experts have the ability to turn Romeo and Juliet into Living is All About Arguing. The internet nowadays is particularly adept at creating such contextual displacement. Moreover, the Chinese subtitles being circulated are both amusing and exasperating. They translated, How America Can Maintain Military Competitiveness into, How America Can Defeat China, and, If There Is No Innovation, There Will Be Failure into, America Cannot Beat China. I have to say, with this level of translation, even Google Translate would probably say to them, you guys are amazing. The original words spoken by Musk were as follows. Because China's population is 4 to 5 times that of the United States, if China's per capita GDP reaches half of that of the United States, then China's economy will be twice the size of the United States. The essence of war lies in the economy, so in this situation, the only way to gain an advantage is through technological innovation. This statement emphasizes the importance of technological innovation for comprehensive national strength and calls on the United States to maintain its innovative edge. It is an appeal and a warning, without any intention of attacking or belittling. However, through the magical editing and translation, Musk has been turned into someone who says, America cannot beat China. I can only say that for this kind of editing and translation, even as a stand-up comedian, I can only express my admiration. Seriously, you guys are so talented. But let's not take it too seriously. Life needs these jokes to lighten the mood. Otherwise, how would we have the opportunity to appreciate such an amusing skit of Musk saying America cannot beat China? However, please remember that there is always only one truth. In the face of technological innovation, no country has an absolute advantage. Only continuous effort and innovation are the keys to winning the future. The Chinese government cancelled the visit of Josep Borrell, the Vice President of the European Commission and High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. Well, if every time I cancelled a date it caused such a sensation, I wouldn't still be single now. Reuters reported that Beijing did not provide any reason for the cancellation of the visit, just like when my friend suddenly cancels our dinner plans with a reason like, I suddenly don't want to see you. But it's not surprising. Guess what? Europe is pushing for risk-free economic relations with China and even describing China as an economic competitor and systemic rival. It sounds like saying, I want to date you, but you should know that I might portray you as my archenemy. But it's not surprising, that's international politics for you. Where else do you find someone holding a burning love in one hand and secretly clutching a cold dagger in the other? Next, when Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning was asked about the cancellation of Borrell's visit, he said, I have no information to release. This answer is just like when my ex was asked why we broke up, I have no information to release. Is this to protect my sensitive heart? Then, Borrell was originally scheduled to visit China in April, but due to the COVID-19 infection, he had to cancel his trip. It sounds just like my weekend plans. I planned to exercise, but because my bed was too comfortable, I had to cancel my plans. Oh, what a crazy world. China claims to maintain neutrality in the Ukraine conflict, which is like me saying I'm neutral when my friends are arguing and secretly munching on sunflower seeds on the side. Lastly, did you know that while the Chinese government cancelled Borrell's visit, another vice president of the European Commission and chief negotiator for climate issues, Frans Timmermans, happened to be visiting China? It's like your ex cancelling your date but going out with your friend instead. It seems that in both politics and life, we have to learn to adapt to unexpected situations and maintain a sense of humor, or else we might be driven to mental breakdown by the absurdity of the world. Following the U.S. Secretary of State, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen will visit China on July 6. It is expected that her visit will not have any major breakthroughs, but Yellen will push for economic communication between the two sides. Some experts believe that this visit could help establish a new normal and lay the foundation for bilateral relations. However, some analysts are skeptical of this visit, considering it as an empty trip. The U.S. plans to restrict Chinese companies' access to U.S. cloud computing services. Just before U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen's visit to China, U.S. media reported on July 4, citing sources, that the U.S. government is preparing to restrict Chinese companies from using U.S. cloud computing services. According to the Wall Street Journal, if adopted, this new regulation may require U.S. cloud service providers like Amazon and Microsoft to obtain U.S. government permission before providing cloud computing services using advanced AI chips to Chinese customers. Professionals believe that this regulation will help fill security loopholes in the U.S. The 23rd meeting of the Council of Heads of State of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, member countries took place in India on July 4. Chinese President Xi Jinping delivered a speech via video at the summit, emphasizing the need for increased unity and mutual trust among member states of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO. He urged vigilance against external forces inciting a new Cold War, opposing any country's interference in internal affairs for any reason, and instigating color revolutions. Xi stressed the importance of independently formulating foreign policies and taking control of one's own destiny. During this SCO summit, Iran officially became the 9th member state, while Belarus is expected to join next year. In the post-summit declaration, the organization emphasized the strengthening of cooperation in opposition to group confrontation, although internal divisions still exist. Through this summit, the leaders of China, Russia, and India are attempting to reshape the US-dominated global order. However, apart from the implied unity in their joint appearances, Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, and Narendra Modi seem to have their own distinct goals. This is Putin's first participation in an international forum since the insurgency, and he expressed gratitude to the member states for their support following the coup attempt, claiming that it did not receive public support in Russia. For Putin, support from China is particularly important. On the other hand, China has paid a price for its support to Russia. Tanvi Maiden, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, believes that this SCO summit is exceptionally important for Moscow, as it demonstrates to the West that Russia is not isolated. She suggests that China, in order to shape itself as a global power, is also becoming a dominant player in forums like the SCO. Chinese Defense Minister Li Shangfu met with the Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Navy, Admiral Yevmenov, in Beijing on the Three Road. Li expressed the hope that both sides would strengthen communication at all levels, regularly organize joint exercises, patrols, and competitions, and expand practical cooperation in professional fields. Earlier, during U.S. Secretary of State Blinken's visit to Beijing, high-level dialogue between the U.S. and China was restored, but military talks to avoid potential military crises have yet to resume. Taiwanese people are closely following every new development in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. While they generally sympathize with Ukraine's resistance, there is a great divergence in the conclusions drawn about Taiwan's own future. A man who served in the Taiwanese military last year said that he learned almost nothing during his service. He added that if China were to attack Taiwan, he and his friends would not willingly go to the front lines as it would be hopeless. Vessels flying the Chinese national flag previously damaged 2 undersea cables in Taiwan, resulting in partial internet disruptions in certain areas. This served as a stark reminder that if a conflict were to occur with China, the communication network of this democratic island would expose a major vulnerability. Taiwan is now seeking to strengthen its own communication systems by drawing lessons from Ukraine's experiences. On July 4, Taiwan's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Li Chun, announced recent diplomatic achievements, including President Tsai Ing-wen and Foreign Minister Wu Zhaoxia's successful visits to Central America and Europe, the G7 summit reaffirming the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, and visits from as many as 40 foreign delegations to Taiwan. Meanwhile, how Taiwan will balance the issue of countering China's military threats and ensuring its own security is becoming increasingly concerning. Recently, Taiwan's Ministry of Justice introduced a reward system for reporting to prevent foreign hostile forces and online election gambling from interfering in the 2024 elections. Previously, Taiwan's Secretary General of the National Security Council, David Lee, had issued a warning that Beijing authorities may intervene extensively in next year's presidential election in Taiwan. In another development, on the 3rd, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce and the General Administration of Customs jointly announced that, in order to safeguard national security and interests, the export of certain germanium and gallium-related items will require approval from the State Council starting from August 1. Germanium and gallium are critical raw materials for computer chips and solar panels. U.S. media pointed out that since the announcement did not provide specific details, it implies that Beijing intends to use this as a bargaining chip in negotiations with the United States. China is a major producer of these two metals. Analysts believe that this export control measure is likely a response to previous restrictions on chip exports to China by the United States and other countries. China's export control on these two critical minerals may accelerate actions to move supply chains out of China. Currently, some governments and industries are seeking to mitigate the collateral impacts of the escalating US-China economic confrontation. Industry experts say that China's move is unlikely to immediately affect the global output of products such as semiconductors, but it has sounded an alarm for countries that may be impacted. Chinese chip manufacturers and researchers attending the Semicon China Semiconductor Industry Conference often express their lament that the era of continued development and prosperity in the global supply chain has come to an end due to geopolitical tensions. Whether the semiconductor industry can maintain its growth may depend on how the geopolitical tensions develop. Industry insiders suggest that the global semiconductor industry is entering a turbulent and disorderly period. With Chinese companies mastering the once considered challenging refining process, Indonesia's vast nickel reserves have opened the doors to the electric vehicle industry, with China taking a dominant position in Indonesia as a result. However, environmental analysts warn of significant risks associated with the high-pressure acid leaching (HPAL) technology. HPAL facilities are carbon-intensive and generate a large amount of waste, making safe storage challenging in a country like Indonesia, which experiences heavy rainfall and earthquakes. Open Black Lens Bracket International Atomic Energy Agency, Fukushima Nuclear Wastewater Discharge Plan meets standards. Close Black Lens Bracket on the 4th. The Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, Rafael Grossi, stated that Japan's plan to discharge wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the ocean meets the agency's safety standards, and the environmental impact on seawater, fish, and sediment can be considered negligible. Currently, Japan's plan to discharge the Fukushima nuclear wastewater into the sea has faced protests from China, South Korea, and Pacific Island nations, with differing opinions within Japan as well. Both internationally and domestically, Japan's plan has sparked controversy, with Chinese government officials and many South Korean citizens protesting against the perceived unsafe discharge. On Tuesday, the International Atomic Energy Agency announced that Japan's discharge plan meets the agency's safety standards. Since China implemented the Korea ban in 2016, major South Korean companies have sold or liquidated as many as 46 production subsidiaries in China. Among them, Hyundai Motor experienced the largest decline in sales from its Chinese production subsidiaries. Beijing Hyundai, the Chinese subsidiary of Hyundai Motor, saw its sales plummet by 75.7%. According to data released by the South Korean Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy on the 4th, foreign direct investment in South Korea reached a record high of $17.09 billion in the first half of this year. The reason behind this is that as multinational companies divest from China, funds are flowing into South Korea. Additionally, the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act has hindered direct exports from Chinese companies to the U.S., leading them to seek increased cooperation with South Korean companies. Chinese diplomatic executive Wang Yi indirectly criticized Japan and South Korea's pro-U.S. stance. "You need to know where your roots lie." He made these remarks on July 3 at the China-Japan-Korea Cooperation International Forum in Qingdao, stating that Western powers deliberately emphasize ideological differences and that China, Japan, and South Korea are all Asians and can never become Westerners, so they should know where their roots lie. These comments have been criticized as racially discriminatory and are seen as further dividing the countries. Hong Kong police offer $1 million reward for the arrest of 8 pro-democracy activists. On the 3rd, Hong Kong police announced a reward of $1 million Hong Kong dollars for the arrest of 8 prominent pro-democracy activists who are currently in exile, accusing them of violating the Hong Kong national security law. Senior Superintendent Li Kuai-hua of the Hong Kong National Security Department stated that as long as these individuals do not return to Hong Kong, the police cannot arrest them, but they will not stop pursuing them. The Hong Kong government is attempting to extend the extraterritorial reach of the national security law by publicly offering rewards for these 8 individuals. On July 4, Chief Executive Carrie Lam stated that no matter where these individuals go, the Hong Kong government will pursue them for the rest of their lives. The only way for wanted individuals to end their life on the run is to surrender. Overseas Hong Kong residents say they now feel anxious every time they return to Hong Kong, and some even ask friends to accompany them on flights. The US and UK condemn the reward offered by Hong Kong for the arrest of overseas Hong Kong activists. The reward announced by Hong Kong for the capture of pro-democracy activists such as Nathan Law and Simon Cheng, who were in exile, has sparked condemnation from the US and UK. On the 3rd, U.S. State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus stated that the extraterritorial use of Beijing's imposed national security law sets a dangerous precedent and called on the Hong Kong government to immediately withdraw the reward. The UK Foreign Secretary stated that they will not tolerate any attempts to intimidate individuals. Australian Foreign Minister Marise Payne expressed deep disappointment regarding the reward for the 8 lawyers and activists overseas. Among the wanted individuals are Australian citizen and lawyer Tony Chung, who resides in Melbourne, and former legislator Simon Cheng, currently living in Adelaide. The federal government will continue to speak out on issues of concern to Australians, including human rights, said Marise Payne. After China's latest enacted foreign relations law and national intelligence law came into effect on July 1, the U.S. State Department updated its travel advisory for China to Level 3, Reconsider Travel, which is just below Level 4, Do Not Travel. This decision was made due to risks of arbitrary enforcement, exit bans, and mistaken detentions. More than 50 global human rights organizations jointly wrote to U.S. President Biden on June 30, demanding a clear statement from the United States that it will not allow Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam to enter the country or attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation (APEC) summit. In response, Carrie Lam stated that APEC does not belong to any country or economy, and as a member, Hong Kong will attend meetings according to APEC's rules and conventions. Australia announced that the validity of business visas for Indonesian applicants will be extended from 3 to 5 years, and Indonesian citizens will also be able to apply for a multiple entry visitor visa valid for 10 years. Australia will also launch a new program to strengthen the teaching of Indonesian language and culture in schools. Indonesian President Joko Widodo strongly condemned Russia's invasion of Ukraine and expressed support for the region to be free from coercion, implicitly referring to China. Insiders say that Meta Platforms has had discussions with several Chinese tech companies regarding its return to China and has made progress. The company plans to sell its wearable devices in China and has had discussions and made progress with Chinese tech companies, including Tencent. However, it is revealed that this effort faces challenges, partly because Chinese executives are concerned that Mark Zuckerberg is seen as unfriendly towards China. While the youth unemployment rate in China reaches new highs, the official newspaper, People's Daily, published an article stating that the overall employment situation in China remains stable. As China enters its first year of population decline, the Chinese Ministry of Education released data showing that the number of kindergartens and primary schools in China decreased by more than 5,000 last year, marking the beginning of a wave of closures. Real estate consulting firm Cushman & Wakefield's mid-year report reveals that by mid-2023, the vacancy rate of Grade A office buildings in Shenzhen has increased by 1.6 percentage points year-on-year to 24.5%. This is the second time this indicator has exceeded 24% since the end of 2020. Large areas in central and southwestern China are experiencing heavy rainfall, leading to the evacuation of thousands of people. Guangzhou in Chongqing has been severely affected, with floodwaters surging through the streets of the city. As of Wednesday, at least 15 people have died and 4 are missing. In Wushan, Chongqing, a building collapsed in the raging floodwaters. Netizens have questioned the adequacy of the drainage system. A conflict between residents and police occurred in a residential community in Qingpu, Shanghai, resulting in multiple injuries and arrests. Residents of the community were dissatisfied with the Property Management and Neighborhood Committee's decision to spend 20 million yuan on renovating the community's walls without holding a residents' meeting for approval. As a result, they blocked the authorities from carrying out the construction forcefully. A clash ensued, and riot police were deployed to maintain stability, leading to the arrest of approximately 10 individuals. Several residents were also injured. Hello, everyone. I'm your news anchor, Yali, providing you with a one-stop service for China-related news every day. Feel free to leave comments in the comment section, and we will carefully read and respond to your comments. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. See you next time. Take care, everyone.